Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Today we have a repeat guest, Rolf Haltza, the author of Jobstacking. Rolf, how's it going?
Hi, it's going great. A lot of changes last year and a lot of changes coming job stacking this year.
Yeah, I think the last time we recorded was just right around a year ago, and that was our second episode.
That's right.
So we're actually, I think definitely due for this third installment, third conversation around job stacking. And you mentioned offline that you were currently interviewing. Maybe you could kick it off by telling us about that.
So I've shifted my approach to job stacking the last what do we say? It's 5 months or so. I've before I would just do straight job stacking. What I explained in the course, what I explained in the coaching, all my what my entire online presence. If you follow me on Twitter and that kind of stuff, I used to just do that, and that was like a big bragging point about my coaching was that I don't make a living selling the coaching or selling the services. I make a living, right? I make my money doing what I teach others, right? And so, like, let's say regular traditional job stacking. But in the past 5 months, I've started to outsource my jobs. I've started to focus more on other activities or like not working the jobs myself, right? Like I still go to the meetings, right? I still show my face because it's my name, it's my face that they hired, but the actual tasks themselves I've started to outsource, right? And so I started with friends, right? So that's a key point. It's not that I went out and just like hired a random freelancer. I had a friend that was also in tech, and he had recently been a victim of the layoffs, and so he didn't have a job. And so I had like five, and so I was like, dude, do you want to just take one of my jobs? That's how it started, and it worked out fantastically. Like he's very happy that he doesn't have to be in meetings, right? Like he just gives me like a daily update. He texts me like his daily update. Like I did this. He doesn't have to be in any meetings, and I don't have to worry about it actually performing, like doing the tasks that I had to do. And so I've been slowly outsourcing all of my jobs, and that's what I'm really gonna focus on this 2024. And 2023 was all about basically surviving the return to office offensive that went on. I think that's dead. We can get into that later if you want, or right now about I'm very bullish on
Yeah, it's
the.
funny. I just saw the first indication of that today. I think you did a quote tweet or someone else did. It was from like a November 2023 chart, but I just saw it for the first time where it said like the return to office movement has actually flatlined in the past couple months. There's like there's been no significant change in terms of the ratio of remote versus in office. So it looks like everyone that was meant to go back to the office is back. And now we've hit kind of like the steady state in terms of like the percentage of the workforce that's remote.
That's right. That's right. And so I think, I mean, coming off of the pandemic, obviously because of obvious reasons, the pandemic was like the peak of remote of remote working, right? Like just by necessity, anybody that could be remote was made to be remote. And so it was only natural that we would have like a sort of correction afterwards, right? And so that's when we had let's say like the counteroffensive of return to office, right? Like they try to push, and I think a lot of the
Offensive.
yeah,
It's a great
I talk about it in those terms, right? Like the counteroffensive of RTO, and so and if you notice, it became apparent that return to office was failing right around the time or after WeWork collapsed, right? Like after they declare bankruptcy and all that stuff. And so, like, I think in the media, you really had that push of return to office because it was coming from real estate companies that they wanted to get their money back on all that commercial real estate. But I
Makes
think
sense.
yeah, and so I think that's what happened. but workers didn't budge in a sense. Like a lot of people did return to office. I don't want, like, again, like we had a correction. We're not at the same rates that we were during the pandemic, but people knew, or like the pandemic let them know that they could work remotely and that it's sweet. It's good to work
Uh-huh.
remotely. It's good to work from home.
So what's the takeaway from, like, let's just say it's true,
Mhm.
return to office is dead, or it's like kind of reached like the equilibrium. So now
Yes.
we're at equilibrium. What's kind of the takeaway for listeners from that?
That you should start being more proactive. Have like a abundance mindset regarding employment, regarding jobs. That you are going to
Mm,
be able to get those remote jobs. You are going to be able to get those remote opportunities. You're not stuck. You're not stuck in an office. And even if you start by just negotiating a very good hybrid arrangement, right? Like just going to the office 1 day a week, maybe one day a month. Then maybe it's just like we get together for the end of quarter party, that kind of stuff. So that's my takeaway. It's don't have an abundance mindset about, like, yes, there are remote opportunities. Even if you think that in your even don't think it's just for tech. It's the same thing they tell people regarding job stacking. Oh, I only think I believe job stacking is only possible for people in tech. I believe remote jobs are only attainable in tech. It's not true. You're going to be able to get more remote opportunities in the future.
mm. Yeah, I know a lot of people have questions about this. I put the question to our
Mhm.
Telegram groups and Twitter, and people want to know, like, what are kind of the best remote gigs. Actually, I would love to preface that with one thing that we've talked about, and I think both of our previous installments, was how you really started your remote work, for context, doing QA work, like quality
No,
assurance and testing, right?
no,
Wasn't it
no. I did
testing?
not. No, I did not start as a QA. I started as a software developer, regular, like just full stack. I was
Oh, really?
doing.
What did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
code with? What was your primary
.NET.
programming
So,
language?
I used
You were a
.NET
.NET
and
developer. Okay.
yeah, .NET and Angular and React, and then I mean, to be honest, I made the switch to QA because I got tired of having to fix bugs from somebody that worked at the company 5 years ago and is no longer there. And nobody, I was like, man, this is awful. I'd rather just get credit for finding the defect. So that's kind of what started my road to my journey in
Okay.
QA.
Credit for finding the defects. That's great. So you
Yeah,
found QA to be easier,
yeah,
and it was literally hilarious. Some of our past discussions, but and I think one of the epiphanies you had last year, and I'm curious to know how this has tracked, is you said, you know what, I don't even want to do QA. I want to do product manager type
yeah.
roles, almost like non-technical roles where
That's right.
there's less of a tangible deliverable and it's more just like middleman
Yeah,
talking head stuff. How did that go?
yeah. So that happened because I have a client. He's my best alum. Let's put it like that. He's been the one that I've worked with, that I've seen that he's been the most successful. He's even managed to make more money than I do, that I've done with job stacking itself, like stacking jobs, right? And so what I noticed when I was working with him was that he worked in compliance, or he works in compliance. And so this is a very managerial position, right? Very. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So he had a very managerial position, and in our conversations, right, like just Telegram chats and that kind of stuff. We would just talk about our lives, and I would tell him, like, man, like I at this job now they're wanting me to do daily pushes to branch. So if you're in tech, it's like they want me to like upload my
Push new
work.
code every
Yeah,
day.
push new code every day, right? Like they want to see it. And so I was asking him, like, is it like that for you, right? Like, do you have to do daily updates? And he was like, no, man. Like I gotta, every couple of weeks I get asked about what I'm doing, and I give a report. and that's it. So he was like I would talk to him, and he would always be like, "Oh, I'm at the park. Oh, I'm at the pool. I'm not doing this." And so I was like, "Man, so maybe I was wrong. So maybe managerial those type of positions that I thought were awful for job stacking. Maybe I was wrong, and maybe I wanna transition into one of those jobs where I don't have to be giving updates every day." And that, because that's really the problem with software. That's really one of the reasons why I actually think tech is one of the worst um, candidates for job stacking. It's just because all the
Interesting.
tracking that gets done, like it's, if you're not in tech, you have no idea the amount of oversight that we get. Like they can check our work every day. Our work is public. Like we have to push it to public repositories of code, and they can check it, and like there's code reviews, and you got to give updates every single day. It's kind of exhausting being in tech. And so again, contrasting with this guy, I was just like, he like, he only had to give a report every couple weeks. And so that's what led me to like, maybe I to think like, hey, maybe I do want to try this out. Now here's the issue: I did try it out, and the problem is, in those type of decisions, at least the ones that I was trying to apply for, Scrum Master, product owner, project manager, I created a bunch of
Uh-huh.
profiles just to do A/B testing. Getting the positions is like getting the actual jobs is way harder than it is in tech. So and this is where I realize one of my new maxims, which is like, the more bullshit the hiring process, the more bullshit the position is, probably. And so those cozy, jobs that don't require a lot of reporting every day, they're kind of scarce in a sense. They're not that common, and they're protected by just a bunch of, the hiring process is a bunch of bullshit. It's just utter bullshit, like the amount of things you have to go through. um,
Uh-huh.
and so that's what happened. So eventually, QA work started to pick up, to pick up again. The hiring processes, I got started to, recruiters started talking to me again. um, and so I was just like, I put it on hold. But yeah, so that's the experience. I didn't actually get to do the jobs. I went through several interview processes, but I didn't manage to get those jobs.
Got it. So you stuck with your guns, stuck with QA.
I start with my guns with QA. I'm very proficient in the interview process for QA jobs. And so I just want to say, right, like maybe it's a matter of like, maybe my inexperience, right? Like maybe they could sniff that I didn't have any experience as a scrum master or as a project manager. And I I think this because I did get caught in a few interviews. They would ask me questions. I remember one particular interview where they would ask me like, "How would you handle this conflict?" And so like they would just keep deepening the conflict, right? Like they would, I would offer a solution, a boilerplate, like, "Oh, everybody be nice." Like I would make everybody talk and be happy, and they would, okay, but what if the problem is not fixed? And I would be like, "We would talk some more." And it's like, okay, you talked, but what if the problem doesn't get fixed? And I was just like, I had no idea like what they were asking for, and at one point, one of the interviewers said like, "At no point are you going to talk to HR?" And I was like, man, they caught me. Like I would never think about,
That's your
somebody.
best friend, HR. You love HR.
Exactly. HR is my enemy, and so HR is a friend of a project manager. And so I would never think of bringing something to HR, right? As a simple employee. And so they caught me. So I think my inexperience, I wasn't able to fool them to the final extent, in a sense. Like I couldn't take the money home. With
Dude, you would have been the best scrum master ever.
That's right. I was like, I would just watch YouTube all day, and it was like, "How are you doing?" "Oh, great, excellent." But yeah, that question made me realize when they were like, "Are you going to talk to HR?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm." Yeah, they caught me. I don't know what they're asking for, and so I did.
It's not in your bones.
That did serve me for later interviews. I did say that, like, "Oh, I would talk to my HR. I would talk to my delivery manager, so we could," but still didn't get the job. And well, I went back to QA.
So let me ask this before we switch topics. When you think about getting these scrum master, product manager, whatever non technical jobs, what does a job hunt look like for you? Like, how many places did you apply to? Was it more of a spray and pray approach, or more of like a sniper approach where you're putting effort to find decision makers and this kind of thing? Or are you just like spraying 1,000 resumes, or you're like, you know what, I'm focusing on these 10 companies and I'm going to like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, no. I went the sniper approach. I'm usually not big on spray and pray in general, and so I definitely went. I researched some companies, was saw the openings, talked to the recruiters, sent my resume, and so that was my approach. So I didn't do spray and pray.
Hey guys, quick break from the podcast to tell you about job stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now.
So maybe somebody
Okay.
could, so maybe somebody could make it work with spray and pray. It's always a numbers game in a sense.
So, what's the calculus of spray and pray versus sniper for anyone listening to this? This is like kind of like job hunting 101 in a sense, right? It's like, should
It's
I
like sales.
apply
It's
should I
sales.
apply to 100 jobs a day? Just easy apply, easy apply, easy apply, easy apply, update, upload the resume, click submit on to the next one, or is it more like, okay, let me like dig up this person's email somehow and like, maybe do like 5 job applications a day? Like, what's the calculus?
I'd say if you're doing more than like two or three applications a day, you're kind of spraying. It's two or three a day. So it's 15 a week, right? Like I'm assuming you're not doing the applications on the weekends. 15 a week seems reasonable, like a couple day. If you're doing five, more than three, like if you're doing 5, 10 a day, if you're doing like there's this app called Lazy Apply, if you're doing something like that, that's more spraying and praying. The thing, the advantage of spray and pray is that at the end, like job hunting is like sales, like you're selling your resume, you're selling yourself, and
Mhm.
so you get the big numbers, right? So like just by percentages, big law, big numbers, you're gonna get some kind of response. The problem is that you don't really know how good that job is gonna be. You know how uh, what's the word? How compatible or the quality of the job that you're gonna get if they're kind of like open to that spray and pray approach, right? Like usually companies um, remember what I said in the book. Like companies are very entitled and they're very self-important, right? Like they think they're very like important. They want the best candidates, right? Like they want the best
Mhm.
candidates, so they go to recruiting companies and they don't tell employers don't tell them, yeah, spray and pray, just give me whoever, just give me the resume of whoever, right? And so when you do the spray and pray approach in sales, it makes sense, right? Like just sending ads on Facebook, whatever, just big numbers. When it's an employment, it can work, but it's a you run the risk of like getting in touch with somebody both as an employer and as an employee that's kind of low quality. So I always advocate when regarding employment, regarding job searches, to you don't want to spend hours and hours like perfecting, optimizing your resume for one particular employer, one particular recruiter. You want to have multiple profiles, multiple resumes, multiple skills being highlighted, but you want to have kind of like a human touch to it. Like you want to have human
Okay.
interactions, and so a few applications per day, maybe 20 a week, something like that. Fine, that's what I advocate.
Okay. Interesting. I'm slightly surprised. I get it. I thought you might have been a spray and pray guy. I thought you would have like automated it, like a
No,
Python script that can like
no.
submit 1,000 resumes a day type of thing.
I haven't needed it. So I haven't needed it. So maybe that's why I don't. I haven't gotten big into it. Even in 2023, when things were kind of rough, getting new jobs, um, I still didn't feel like I needed to automate it. And so I have issues with automation. What I just explained, and I have other issues with automation. Um, I mean, automating the recruitment process or the applying process, that does make more sense than the people that just tell me. I got people on the in the DMs tell me all the time, how do I automate my job? And it's like, dude, you can't. It's very hard to automate your job, especially if you're like, again, like if you're in tech. How are you going to automate the Jira responses to, like, the PM comes and asks you a question? How do you automate that? It's kind of very hard. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? But I'm talking about automating the job, automating the job hunting process. I haven't needed it. I haven't felt like I have needed to do it, so I've never actually done it.
Okay. Have we said on the podcast yet how many jobs you're currently holding?
No, I'm currently holding
And these are 5 full-time jobs.
five full time jobs. That's right.
And are some of them FTE, some of them contract, or
Some of them are FTE, some of them are contract, some of them are W-2s.
some are W-2s, some of them are 1099s? I Tell us about it.
Um, so if you got if your audience remembers, my peak was 7 jobs, and my my average has always been 3. But since, and I advocated for 3 being the kind of the sweet spot for jobs. You have 3 incomes, right? One income uh, goes to expenses, right? Like paying your rent, paying your mortgage, all your expenses. The other one goes to your expenses and living your life, right? Like, so you're not holding back. You're not living constrained all the time, right? So one income goes towards life, another income goes to cash savings, and the other income you invested. And so, and with 3 jobs, I felt, I still do, for most people, especially for people just starting job stacking, right? That it gives you a good meeting to life balance. Because after 3 jobs, the issue that comes up is that you have too many meetings, and so you have too many interruptions during the day, and you still have to work. You still have to do, perform. You still have to provide some results to your employers, to all of them. And so when I was having more than 3 jobs in the past, when I had 4, 5, 6, 7, I found that, number one, I just became very apathetic for everything, because I was just constantly interrupted. Like, I couldn't focus at any point during the day, because I always had 15 minutes. I would always have a meeting coming in 15 minutes, right? So I would end a call, and then in 15, 20 minutes, I would have another one, right? And then again, to repeat to repeat the point, the issue is that you still have to work, right? So you have to do the work for 5 jobs, right? Which again is not the job. The work itself is not that big of a deal. If you could not have any meetings, right, you could, no problem, you could do 10 jobs, right? The problem is the interruptions, right? And so
Mm.
it was just a whole problem. And so I was like, three is the sweet spot for a number of jobs. So why am I at 5 again? I'm at 5 again because I started to outsource them. So I got my 3 jobs. Then the situation that I described earlier about my friend being out of work, I offered him a job, and so he just took care of that. And so I was like, oh man, like, if it's like either meetings or tasks. And so that also, to tie it back to the difference between software engineering or QA and these managerial jobs, right? My friend, he had meetings, and he had meetings all the time, but he didn't have to do deliverables, right? So the problem is when you mix the two, when you have too many meetings and you have deliverables. Okay, so you want one or the other. And so when I started outsourcing jobs to friends, what I found was that, oh, I still have quite a lot of free time in my hands, even though I'm going through a bunch of meetings during the day. But I still have a lot of free time. My mind is clear because I do the meetings, but then I don't have to worry about the deliverables. Somebody else is taking care of the deliverables. And so now I have 5 jobs. They're all outsourced. I'm not doing any of the actual tasks, any of my jobs, and I'm applying like crazy, just like to get as many jobs as possible now. So just so I can sell them out to friends, right? And so my plan is to eventually, when I no longer have like friends that can take jobs, right? Because let's say they can each take 3 jobs from me, and I don't know, like I'm already at whatever capacity. I don't have any more jobs to give. That's when
Mhm.
I'll start. That's when I think I'll start. What's the word? Selling jobs on the market, like on the internet, like to my followers. Like, hey, you want a job? You want a job? Sign up for it. Sign up
So,
for it
so
here.
you call it selling jobs.
Yeah, selling my job. Yeah, selling jobs, selling tasks. That's my
And are
plan.
you
Like
splitting it like 50-50, like the salary, or how do you think
it's
about the
we can off. It's the same. It's the same as with any employer. Like I have a salary or compensation range. If they're fine taking it, except I don't have a range. I just give like the maximum amount that I'm willing to pay, and if they don't want to take it, they don't take it.
Okay, so you're getting whatever, let's call it $70 an hour for
Hmm.
your job, and you're saying, "Hey, bro, I got this QA job. Do you
Hmm.
want to do it 30 bucks an hour?"
That's
That
right.
kind of thing. So it's
And
not a
and I
strict percentage. It's just kind of like
yeah,
whatever the market will bear.
that's right. That's right. And I tell them, you don't have to go to any meetings. And this is how this is how I convince a lot of friends on taking my jobs. I tell them, like, you don't have to do any meetings. You don't have to do any daily stand-ups. You only give this the update to me, so I can give it, so I can say it in the daily
Hmm.
stand-up. And I'm not expecting you to be to do 8 hours of this, right? Like I am very aware that this only takes a couple hours per day. Uh, and so yeah, so that's how I sell. So obviously,
Okay.
I just give them a rate and they take it. Hmm.
Okay. Cool. I guess my burning question would be,
Hmm.
wouldn't they have to download the code base
Yeah,
and kind of like work on the code base and
that's right.
like create branches
That's
of the
right.
code base? And
That's why
so aren't there going to be like security and IP issues and this kind of thing?
I don't security. There could be security issues, but I pay for VPN so that they all connect from the same region basically, and so whatever. Like the employers are not looking fine grained at IPs. They're looking at um, like red flags, right? Like the guy said that he's in North Carolina and he's connecting from China. They're looking for that. But if it's like, you're connecting from Raleigh and another IP from Raleigh, uh, I don't know, like they could a dynamic IP, whatever.
Okay. So you
So
guys use the same city. You
yeah,
guys
that's right.
use the same city location on the
That's right.
VPN,
That's right. That's right. We use the same region. The same region. Mhm.
same region.
That's right.
Okay. What is
And
the and I go ahead.
okay. No, I was going to tell you that this is why I said that I started, and I'm only doing it with friends right now. So it's like people I trust, people that are smart, that can do the job, but that I trust. So this is why I'm saying that I'm working the details on how would I sell a job to a stranger on the internet, right? Like because there are many layers of protection that would need to be taken on the side of the person that's selling the job, right? Like so if I want you, my Latin life, to come and sell your jobs or whatever your tasks on the platform that I want to build, I gotta give you assurances, right? Nobody's gonna find your name, nobody's gonna find out what nobody's gonna go behind your back and say what you're doing, that kind of stuff. So that I'm working through the details of that right now. The outsourcing that I'm doing is strictly with friends, with people that I trust. So a lot of the issues that are related to security and trust and that kind of stuff are kind of waved away in a sense because of that shared trust that we have, that we're all friends, right? So it's like what
Hmm.
the lesson here is that you want to take care of your net worth, like all the everything that they've told you on the online about networking and blah blah blah. It's like this is an opportunity when you outsource your jobs, when job stacking. This is an actual opportunity to actually put that, those networks, those trust relationships, not to the test, but to work basically.
What VPN do you use?
ExpressVPN.
ExpressVPN.
Yeah.
So I've heard that Express and Nord and some of these like quote unquote basic or well
Hmm.
known VPNs,
Hmm.
they don't fully do the job, and there's still a way for IT departments to figure it out unless you actually like play with the Wi-Fi router and
That's right.
put like
Like,
a
I know.
layer in front of the router before
You,
it connects to the computer.
That's right. There's this thing. I mean, I don't know the name. There's a technical name for it, but I know the brand. The brand is like Firewalla, something like that, and it's like a physical VPN. It does what you do. So far, I'm testing that. I'm testing how it works. So far, I haven't had the need of doing anything like that, but I'm very aware of what you're saying, and so I'm trying to figure out a solution. So far, we haven't been caught, and it's like I say, with job stacking, no regular job stacking, not outsourcing, not the outsourcing approach that I'm taking. If you have an employer that's just not a good fit, right? Like if you have an employer that's like, if you're going to go the outsourcing route, right, and you have all these issues that we're talking about, which are real, are potential problems. Uh, what I'm saying is that most employers are not paying attention to that kind of stuff. Like they're most of the IT departments, like if they give you like a VM, they'll probably just leave it at that. Um, and so if you do have an employer that's like super paranoid, they're always checking that they have the tools to determine if you are using whatever ExpressVPN, NordVPN, whatever other mainstream VPN services there are. Then that job was not meant necessarily to outsource, right? Like that job is not compatible. So you might want to find another job that is a little bit more compatible. Like I said, I haven't had those issues. So far with ExpressVPN, we've been able to make it work. But in the future, I am researching. For the future, I am researching those like actual like router solutions that you're talking about, and those were actually brought to my attention by a um, another my Latin lifer that's also job stacking. He's
Mhm.
a follower on Twitter. He actually let me know about this issue because he's in Latin America doing the work, and so he was telling me like, hey, I actually use this to solve that issue that you are bringing up, but I haven't encountered it myself yet, but I know it's out there.
Mm.
I know what you're saying. It's a problem.
Mhm. Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. So you're basically turning into like the agency of
Yeah,
the QA agency of Rolf Haltza.
that's
And
right.
I guess the thought would be, why not, instead of kind of sneaking around a bit, why not
Mhm.
just formalize it as a QA agency and be above board and be like, look, we're an agency, we get the job done, blah, 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 and sell the agency services. What's sort of the trade off there, or what is the pros, the advantages
Mhm.
of taking this job stacking approach instead of like an agency approach?
So the issue with the agency is that now you're having to go into sales and into competition with all the other agencies that are out there, and of course the advantage is that you have your own business, you have your own agency, and that's great. Like if you can do it above board. The issue is that what I'm doing is not really. I can't. transform it into that with the clients that I already have, because they already have other clients. They already have, I'm sorry, they already have other agencies, which are the ones that hired me, that got me the job. You know what you understand what I'm saying? And so if I do the agency route, it's not like I could turn my current customers and formalize them into that, because they hired another agency that hired individuals, and that's where they got me. And so
Mhm.
the route of the agency, it's perfectly fine. It's why not do it? The issue is that you're just starting a new business. Like you're starting a business, you're having to do marketing, advertisement, actually get the, source the people. You have the contracts that you have to meet, business to business, and it's like the relationship is a lot more strict, right? Like if you're doing business to business, um, like for instance, a lot of one key of job stacking that I always tell people is that, hey, employers put a lot of nonsense on their contracts that we can just kind of ignore, right? Like when they put clauses of like, you may not have another job. What do I say? What do I tell people? Like that's really not a valid claim that they're making, and they also have no way to enforcing it. And also, if they do catch you or whatever, the odds of you getting sued, which is, it's the worst thing that could happen, is that you get sued for having multiple jobs. It's very, very unlikely that an employer will sue an employee because of
Mhm.
that stuff. It's not totally unheard of, right? Like
So you're
I've
saying,
seen.
if I hear what you're saying,
Yeah,
there's kind of two things. Is like a B2B contract is a more
yeah.
ironclad contract that you have to actually
You're a bigger
execute
target,
on.
and you're a bigger
You're a
target
bigger
because you're a
target if
business.
they want to
That's
sue
right.
you or something. And
That's
then
right.
the other thing is that it's just more competitive to get
So
work as an agency than as an employee. Is that kind
it's
of the
not.
idea?
I mean, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say, or I wouldn't necessarily put it as like it's more competitive, but it's not the same as just sending my resume and getting hired. You know what I mean? It's like I gotta do marketing. I gotta go meet with the people. I gotta show them that I have the
You probably
team that I
talk
can
to
do.
like a different arm. Yeah, you probably
Mhm.
talk to like a different arm
Yeah,
of the HR department where, or
that's right.
you have to talk to like the RFP
That's right.
people and like procurement
That's
and
right.
like, and so
It's a
it's
whole
like
thing.
you're, yeah, okay.
It's yeah. It's better in a sense because it's formal. Like you can. Like if you start getting business, the you can scale faster, right? Like you can make more money that way, but there's also a lot of risk. Like the investment, the upfront investment is a lot higher. The risks are a lot higher, and so right now what I'm finding is that it's very possible, very, I mean, easy is the word. If you have a group of friends, it's very easy. If you're gonna count on strangers, then that adds another risk, or another layer of risks. But what I'm finding is that it's just easier for me to get hired as an individual, right? There's a lot of opportunity, and I all I got to do is send a resume and go through a few interviews, and I get the contract, and then I just sell that contract. I'm finding that's easier right now. But again, everything changes with time, right? Like maybe in a year or a few years, I'm at the point where I'm having 40 jobs and I can't staff them, right? Like it's like I have no friends and I've had issues with strangers. So now at that point, it might. Hold on, there's a load of noise. Can you? Oh yeah, whatever. There was.
40
I'm right
jobs.
outside. I'm right outside the street. Like my window is right on the
No
street.
worries. The Latin hammer.
and so and so again, like at that point, maybe that makes. At that point, maybe it makes sense that, oh, okay, let's go the agency route. For now, I'm finding that there's this opportunity. There's this niche that I can exploit, right? Like where it's like I'm getting the jobs, I'm the face, because I'm very. That's the other thing that I found. It's like I have this talent. I'm do very well at interviewing for this positions, right? Like maybe the product manager positions that didn't do as well, but for the QA positions, the coding positions, I do very well. So it's like why not get as many jobs as I can, and then just sell the jobs, and I'm just a face. Like say it's like an informal business. But yeah, that's the reason basically. It's like at this scale, at this point where I'm at, I don't have to invest anything in marketing. I don't have to invest anything in meeting with clients, whatever. I don't have to invest in a legal team that goes over the contracts or whatever. It's like it's just very hassle free. All I do is
Uh-huh.
get jobs, sell jobs. That's it.
So do you think 40 jobs is actually realistic? Do you think even
Yeah.
15 jobs is realistic? How can you be
Oh
the
yeah.
face on 15 jobs?
Oh yeah. I think in the next couple of weeks I'm gonna get 5 more jobs, so I'm gonna be at 10, and then I'll just keep applying after that. It's because it's just about meetings, right? It's like they can't. So what's my skill, right? Like I'm Rolf Haltza. I'm the author of Job Stacking. I'm the expert at handling expectations, handling communications, doing multiple meetings at the same time, right? So I'm the expert at that. Why couldn't I just have 10 jobs? Handle the meetings of 10 jobs, 15 jobs, 20 jobs. You know what I mean? Like what's the problem? I don't
I guess they're going to
think.
overlap though.
Yeah, I'm Rolf Haltza, baby. I'm the expert at managing conflicting meetings. And so I think that's fine as long as I don't have to work, like do the task for the 20 jobs or whatever, the 10 jobs. I think just handling the meetings, it's something that it's perfectly doable for me. But if I had to do the task, that's what I tell her. Like that would be another story. That would be too much. And so I'm just gonna sell the task. Somebody else can do it, and I'll focus on what I'm good at, and that's it.
Yeah, so you mentioned handling expectations, and one of the surprising takeaways I had from our previous two discussions was that even if someone didn't want to do job stacking for whatever reason,
Hmm.
you actually were teaching like a master class in handling expectations and
Hmm.
handling, how do you describe it, like corporate, like how to behave in a corporate environment,
That's
because
right.
I think a lot of people kind of, either they're just coming out of school and they don't know how to behave in a corporate environment, or like every company is a little bit different. And even me, when I was just being a normal employee, and I think a lot of people have this problem where they're just not good at responding quickly
Hmm.
or handling expectations in terms of giving timelines and things like that. Even
That's right.
just normal people with like normal mono job stackers, single job stackers,
Single jobbers, the single jobbers.
single jobbers, mono jobbers, single jobbers, right? Does that make sense? Like you
Yes,
you actually like teach people how to be a good corporate employee.
that's right. I teach how to set expectations, how to handle communications, how to handle conflicts, when to go on the offensive, when to be meek, right? Like when to be like, "Oh, my bad, I'm sorry," or when to go like, "No, actually, like my manager is an asshole." Obviously, no, you wouldn't say it like that, but yeah, that's part of what I teach because that's key in the modern work environment, like navigating the politics, knowing how to basically read the room in those situations, and understanding
Mm.
where you're at, right? Like understanding your situation, that you're not in a tight knit community of people you trust. It's kind of cold and mercenary, right? And like everybody, like the number one rule, everybody's following at the top. Anybody that's above you at your job, they're following one simple rule. The rule is not neither meritocracy nor reciprocity, right? The rule is CYA, cover your ass. And so, like, all I teach is like how to cover your ass. So that's a necessary skill in today's white collar environment.
I feel like you could package that up in its
And its own
own
thing,
like
right?
course or
Like,
something, like the
maybe I
cover
will.
your ass
Maybe I will.
course.
Yeah, cover your ass course. How to cover your ass course, and because if you, it's kind of funny that you mention it because yeah, I mean the job stacking thing. It's like job stacking is possible when you know how to cover your ass. That's why that's one of the things that I have to teach when teaching people job stacking. It's like, well, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to know how to handle communications, right? Like you're going to have to know how to handle your boss's expectations. You're going to know you got to know how to like, let's say you didn't pay attention in a meeting because you were paying attention in another meeting or whatever. How do you get that information? Like how do you extract that info, right, without you looking bad, right? Like how do you manage the messages so that it's not like, oh, I'm sorry guys, I didn't pay attention at all in the meeting. Could everybody go again? Could everybody repeat themselves? Like there are ways, or like Another situation, it's like suppose assume that you're given a task at one job, but you're too busy with your other jobs, and then like a few days pass, and when you go to actually look at you're going to work the task that was assigned to you at this job, you find that there's like this huge obvious blocker that if anybody that had worked that had tried to open the task or try to work it would have
Right.
immediately noticed, right? How did you handle that? Like, how do you 2 days later come up and say like, hey guys, actually I didn't do anything for 2 days, and I was taking a look now, and it turns out that I can't. Like, how do you phrase that? Who do you tell?
Right,
Like, right?
right. You're like, hey, there's missing requirements. It's like you haven't read the
That's right. But
requirements in
like,
2 days.
how do you do it? Like, you're not gonna say that. Like, you're not gonna say it like that. Like, maybe. And so like, I teach that, right? Like, how do you find the somebody that's not necessarily in management, so that they won't necessarily know when you were assigned the task or when you were working, and you ask them a couple questions, and so like now you come as a group, right? Like, hey, I was working with Ethan, right? Like, and we noticed this now with the story. Now, what are we gonna do? And so cover your ass. CYA. That's what you got to do to survive and to thrive, not just
Mm.
survive.
And do you have any go-to pillars of CYA? Do you have like a system of it? Like, do you say like maybe, okay, first thing you want to do is fiddle with the tickets and change the status of the tickets, things like
Mhm.
that?
That's right. Um, yeah. So a few principles are that you don't commit to anything. So you don't say anything too definitive. So you don't say something like out of embarrassment or out of a sense of obligation, right? Like, you haven't touched the task in 2 days, and you get asked, hey, how's it going? You don't go and you say like, oh, I should be finished in the next couple of days. You never say anything like that, right? Like, you go like, I'm still working on it, haven't found any blockers yet. But if I find, I'll let you guys know how it's going. Oh, okay. You don't commit to anything like that. The other thing is to every time that you need again get witnesses or get somebody else to support your claims, right? Like, if you're again, like, the situation is that
Mm.
you haven't really touched your task, you go in, you find it can't be done, but it's been too long, so it's going to look bad, it's going to look suspicious. So like, you create kind of like a support group, right? Like, you go and you don't go into a group chat and ask publicly like, hey guys, this isn't working, what do I do? You ask somebody on the low level like, hey, have you seen this? Like, oh, okay. And then you go and ask somebody else, and maybe they have the answer and you don't have to say anything. Right? um, but if they don't, right? Like, if and the task can't be done, the task is blocked,
Yeah.
whatever. How do you cover your ass
That
then?
echoes my experience where
Yeah.
like there's been times where I wouldn't want to tell my boss like, hey, this is like not the right approach, but then I'll
Mhm.
like tell a teammate and I'll be like, yo, teammate, doesn't this seem weird to you? And then the
Yeah.
teammate will volunteer and be like, hey boss, like this looks weird, and then I don't have to say it, that kind of thing.
They don't even have, like, you could say yourself, but it's like, it's not yourself. It's like, hey boss, Rolf and Ethan and Joe, we all came together, we took a look at this, and we found this, right? So now it's like you're coming with receipts in a sense, right? Like, you're coming with some sort of, like, it's not just you,
Someone
like,
with receipts.
with receipts, right? Like, you're coming with like, hey, we all
I
took a
like
look at
this.
it, and it's kind of like it's broken, like we can't, it doesn't work, right? Like, so what do we do? And so for instance, I had another client the other day. He had this situation. He was emailing me. He was telling me like, I was assigned a task, and I had over the holidays I didn't do anything at all, and now everybody came back from the break, from the holiday break, and turns out that the task shouldn't be done, like it was on hold, but there was an issue with communication. Like, what do I do? He was freaking out because he was like, he hasn't done anything. It turns out. And so I told him, listen, all you got to do is tell them the truth, in the sense that you were not informed, like you were assigned this task, and what do I do with my work? Like, that's all you got to do. Like, that's the way you cover your ass. What do I do with the work that I already have? How much work is that? How much was left? Like, you don't go into details, right? Like, you don't go like, oh, I finished it, or I was about to finish. You go, what do I do with my work now that this is not going to be tackled at this moment? And you let them tell you. and that's it. Like that's a simple way to cover your ass, because he was telling me like I'm gonna come clean, and I'm gonna tell them like, guys, actually, yeah, there wasn't anything to do over the holidays. And it's like, no, don't tell them this. Like, just shut up. Like, just tell them, what do I do with the work that I have, and that's it. And they'll have to figure it out.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Jobstacking. Introducing Rolf Haltza's paycheck multiplication layering method, a revolutionary approach that redefines the traditional career path. This is Rolf's new Done With You program, where he'll work with you to implement job stacking for yourself. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, are you ready to step out of the shadows of job insecurity and step into a world of career abundance? Then just click the link in the description of this episode, book a call with Rolf, and start walking the path of unleashing your earning potential with job stacking. Okay, so to resume, I guess we did 2 points. No hard deadlines, and
No hard
then try
commitments.
to
No
get
hard
consensus.
anything. No,
No
no, hold
hard
on. No,
commitments.
no
No
hard
hard,
commitments.
no hard anything. And then number 2 is like get other
Get
people on your
consensus.
team to back up what you're saying so that you're
That's right.
not the only one being like singled out.
That's right.
What else? Keep going.
Don't admit guilt, in the sense of like, always make it seem as if you were giving it your best, and you found whatever the issue that's not making it possible just propped up. Don't assume. That's the other thing. Don't assume that the boss knows how hard or how long the work you're doing should take. And it's actually quite off-putting when you have a manager that tells you like, this should take you whatever amount of time, right? And you go like, well, how do you know, right? It's very off-putting, very rude. So don't worry about like, oh my god, they're gonna know that, this was supposed to take 2 days. And no, don't worry about it. Like, just always communicate confidently, like, hey, I was working on this, right? Like, don't ever be like, oh, I was looking at, no, I was working on this and I found this issue now, right? Unless it's something obvious, like you have no access to the thing, right? And even then, I've been able to spin those situations in which I just make it seem like the no access stuff is reason. I was like, hey, I was actually trying to do this task, work on this today, continue my work on this, and I found that I have no access. And I found that managers will just try, like, they will focus on getting that issue resolved, and that's it. So don't freak out. Seek consensus. Don't admit guilt. Don't seem guilty. Like, just confidently uh, talk about, like, I've been working on this and now I have this issue, or I've been working on this and now I found this, and that's pretty much it. And if you find the other thing, like if you're finding that the things are gonna take too long or whatever, just mention it. Just say, just again, get consensus, get somebody else to agree with you, and even, if it's too, that's always better, right? But if, like, let's say for whatever reason it's impossible, again, just go on the offensive. Like, sometimes people are too defensive at their job. Like, they're waiting to be yelled at, or they're waiting to be reprimanded, or they concede too much, right? Like, when a problem is pointed at them, they concede too much, and it's
Uh-huh.
like, no, you got to go on the offensive. You got to kind of like present your case as if, like, I'm doing the best work that I can at a healthy pace for me, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
And the going on the offensive stuff is actually, I have another person that recently had a similar situation like that, where they had an issue. They had a problem with their manager. The manager even mentioned job stacking by name. Like, he in one conversation he said like, "Hey, have you guys heard about this job stacking stuff?" And the manager was just a very micromanager, um, asshole, that kind of stuff. And so he was having issues. He was butting heads with him, and I just told him, like, listen, like, just bring it up to HR before he. It's like, you want to go for HR first. Like, whoever reaches HR first wins, in a sense, because you get to frame the entire issue. You get to frame the discussion, right? Like, so people are not used to complaining about their managers. People are not used or complaining or bringing issues to HR's attention regarding their problems with their bosses. Again, people are too defensive. You want to go on the offensive if you have a problem, right? Like, you don't want to be picking fights, right? Like, you don't want to be uh, being the opposite of a micromanager, like a micro complainer, right? Like, oh,
Right. But there's like strategic times where you might
that's
have
right,
to
that's right,
like
that's right,
save your job, basically.
exactly, to save your
Okay.
job.
Okay.
And
I have a question. I do want to ask you about how this has become more popular. So you did kind of prompt me
shoot,
there. But one more thing to sort of buckle the buckle on this
yeah.
in terms of the allotted time for a task. So in a Scrum environment, they
Mhm.
they assign story points to something. So they say 1 point, 3.5 points, 8 points,
That's right,
right?
that's right.
I've been in other organizations where when they create tickets, they say this ticket should take 2.5 hours or 4 hours. And so they try to fill your day with like tickets that, line up with, how much
Mhm.
time you have in a week. So what would you do about Scrum environments where there is sort of a um, inherent like idea of how long something takes? Do you push against that, or is that just a red flag and you that's not a good job for job stacking, or what do we do here?
It's both. It's a red flag. I mean, Scrum with time, that should, and I mean, there's a nuance here, right? Like, because a lot of estimates, even if they're done with time, they're just like, it depends on how the company culture or your boss interacts with them, right? Like, if you have somebody, right, if you have a manager that's like taking the estimates literally, like, if like this should take 2.5 hours literally, and they are very strict and they don't accept any negotiation or any, like, hey, it actually took five, and right, that is a huge red flag. On the other hand, if they're more relaxed, if they tell you like, just put a number there, because a lot of managers, like, you have to realize that a lot of times they just want a number, right? Like, they don't want to be just like, it'll take whatever it takes.
Right,
They want a number. But then once people get in there, they're fine about making changes, right? Like, you go in,
right,
it was originally meant to be 2.5 hours. It took you 8, but they take you at your word. They tell that you go and you tell them like, this actually took 8 hours, and they go like, fine, just put 8 hours there, no problems there. Now, if there is a problem, if they're kind of in between, they're kind of strict, right? Like, sometimes they make accommodations, sometimes they don't, and they're kind of like taking the time literally. It is a red flag. And also, yeah, you do have to kind of fight against it. You have all the document, like, in this sense, you can build consensus not only with your coworkers, which are most likely not going to support you in this case because nobody wants to rock the boat. But you have like the consensus of all the experts on Scrum that they're doing an anti-pattern, and what you want to do there, it's not just point out and say like, hey, you're wrong, like, hey boss, like, you, the entire company is doing this wrong. You want to frame it in a way that's positive for them, like, hey, if we made this change, we would be more productive, right? Like, I found the literature that says that organizations that estimate with time tend to be less productive, less happy. So how about we try doing something like that? That's going on the offensive and not responsible. Like, again, like, you don't want to be like the know-it-all that goes like, huh, actually you're doing it wrong, because the story point should be about effort and not time. That's technically correct, but that's gonna get you nothing. You want to sell it as the business, the team is gonna gain something if they do something, if they change things up.
got
But it's
it.
definitely a red flag. Like, oh my god, like businesses that allot hours, like, and they take it seriously, that they're strict about hours. That's just in coding, right? Like, it's not something, in tech. That's just absurd.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
No,
But
of
yeah,
course
who
we've
knows?
all seen it. We've all seen it. It's terrible.
But just have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about like the rise of popularity of overemployment and job
Mhm.
stacking. Obviously, you had a role in making this happen as well. You
Mhm.
famously got retweeted by Marc Andreesen and
That's
and
right.
stuff. But I feel like it really went mainstream in a big way in 2023.
That's right. And it's ironic because it's the time of layoffs, right? And I mean, it's ironic, but at the same time, it's not, right? Because a lot of people did not want to try out job stacking, and a lot of people still don't, because they feel safe, right? Like they think like, I got my job here, I'm comfortable, I'm making enough, or so they think. Um, I can kind of see the point, right? Like there's people that can see the point, but they still don't feel like they don't feel the need. They're not pushed to do it. Um, I think, ironically, or because of the opposite reasons, the big layoffs, and the really, I mean, how to describe 2023? 2023 was kind of like a mental, like a virtual recession. Like the recession never was, like it was never real in a sense, right? Like it never actually materialized. But in 2023, I feel like we were all acting as if the recession was actually real. You know what I
It
mean?
was like on the brink type of
Right.
thing. You know, you had like Twitter lay off 80% of staff, and you're like, God damn, everyone's going to do this next. And it didn't fully materialize that way.
Right. And so I think people, they lost their jobs. Now it's very hard to just get a new one. People are trying to search for new options, right? Like they're trying to reinvent something about themselves, or trying to, they would reconsider other options that they wouldn't. And so I think that's what led to, not necessarily the explosion. I think it's still quite obscure, in a sense, but the increase in interest and knowledge of people, or just knowing about job stacking or overemployed.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first year where like, dude, when we did our first podcast, it was
Mhm.
like, it was like the new frontier. And
Yeah.
then I feel like in 2023, I've just heard lots of casual mentions of like,
Mhm.
oh, yo, these kids these days got like three, four jobs type of thing. So I've been hearing it a lot of like casual things like, oh, everyone in Silicon Valley is like working two jobs type of that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, and what's funny is that talking to some colleagues, they casually mentioned that they were working two jobs, right? Like they don't know who I am, they don't know I'm Rolf Haltza or anything of this. Like they don't know about job stacking, um, but they would casually mention like, yeah, no, I'm working two jobs. I've been working two jobs for a few months now, and so like, it's like people are doing it now. So I think things are only gonna get better now. Like I said, like I think this is the year 2024 that return to office finally dies, and the numbers for remote work are going to increase. And once people realize, because that's the thing, right? Like once you're working from home, and you realize, that you have so much time on your hands, and then you could be making more money, right? I think a lot of people are gonna gravitate towards it. Like the first round during the pandemic was about, like you said, the frontier. It was like we have to come up with this. Like we have to, like,
Right.
realize, yeah, like we have to imagine, like, could we do this? Is this possible? Yes, we can. And so now we've kind of treaded ground, right? Like some of us, and now a lot more people can come in now once remote, or work from home starts to tick up back again. And it's interesting because there's a Stanford study that says that, basically remote work from home has steadily increased since the introduction of home computers, right? And so like there's no reason to think that it's just gonna end, right? Like it's just gonna end. Like they share the same diagnosis. Like the pandemic was a peak, we're coming down from the
Yeah,
peak because it's only
it's
natural.
still easy for remote work
That's
overall.
right.
It's still a
That's
low
right.
percentage of the population. Like
That's right.
maybe it's who knows, 5% of the population, not even, and
It's
it's
10,
gonna it's
10,
gonna
10%, around 10% of the population are fully remote. Yeah.
really.
Well, I mean, 10% of the working population that can work remotely. So, which it's 10% of 60%, or
Like
10% of
10% of
40%.
office workers,
That's
basically.
right. That's right. 10% of four. I think it's 60% are jobs that can't be that are not office jobs, that are like service economy, that kind of stuff. 40% are office jobs, and of that 40%, 10% are fully remote. And right now, so here's the shift, right? Right now, the most popular arrangement is hybrid work. But if you go back to before the pandemic, nobody worked hybrid. Like there were no work from home days. Like everybody worked 5 days a week in the office, and so even that is an increase in remote work, right? Like people are working 3 days from home, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way,
So,
hybrid. So just let me say this: hybrid work is totally compatible with job stacking, as long as your second job is fully remote. You can have one hybrid work or one hybrid job. In theory, you could have like up to two hybrid jobs if like it's very very like it's like one job you have to come into the office on Mondays and then the other you have to come in on Fridays and then the rest is remote. In theory, if you have an arrangement like that, you could have two hybrid jobs, but one hybrid, one fully remote is totally possible.
this episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bit Refill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. So let's say someone's made it an hour into this episode and they're down to do job stacking. I know this is a little bit out of order, but I want to get back a little bit about just like tactics for hiring and stuff. I promise this won't be a 2.5 hour epic podcast like we've done on our past ones. So we'll kind of start getting to wrapping up, but I wanted to talk just a little bit more about how to actually get remote jobs. So like
Yeah.
I think when you and I have talked offline, LinkedIn is still your go-to.
LinkedIn is still my go-to. So LinkedIn's still the goat. Don't post anything in there. Just use it to talk to recruiters and send your resume. Easy apply. There are some other boards. It depends. Like the boards depend on like there are some more specialized ones. Like for instance, this guy that works in compliance, he has like there are special boards for those type of jobs. I can prepare some kind of document or something, and you can post it on the description for your
Uh-huh.
listeners, right? Like if they're interested.
Okay. So LinkedIn is still the GOAT. How do you use LinkedIn? Because not everyone uses LinkedIn the same
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you don't really do the easy apply, spray and pray, which is one LinkedIn way to do it. So you're going to the ones that are actually like the longer form applications,
No, no, no,
maybe.
no. I do easy apply. I don't automate it. Like I don't have an automated script that goes and does easy apply for me. But I do like, oh man, God bless easy apply. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I get annoyed when I see a job that's not easy apply. Like, man, why would you do this?
Okay, so you're doing easy apply, and
That's
then
right.
maybe just walk us through the whole thing. Maybe I'm like babysitting this answer too much, but
Sure.
like, and then I assume you also DM the person who posted
That's
the
right.
ad. Maybe just walk us through kind of like your whole LinkedIn strategy, top to bottom.
Sure. So LinkedIn has the advantage that you can actually network with the recruiter that's in charge of the job. It's in theory the person that did the job posting, or the person that's in charge of the search. So there are two things that you can do. LinkedIn is very good about helping you get a job, in the sense that LinkedIn has an option. You have your profile, right? Like whatever, you pimp your profile out, and there's an option in LinkedIn that says open to work, right? And you've probably, if you use LinkedIn, you've probably seen the people that have like the little green thing
Yeah,
that
it's like
says
a little
open to
like
work.
circle thing, open to
Yeah,
work with the color. Is that
that's
good or bad?
lame. That sucks. No, that's
Lame?
horrible. That's horrible. You
Horrible. I
want to
thought
do the
so. Yeah.
open to work. Like LinkedIn has another option that is secret, right? Like it's not secret.
Secret
It's like
open to work.
right. It's not secret because LinkedIn doesn't make it a secret. That's not what I mean. Like you don't have to input like the Konami code to get that option or anything of that. All I'm saying is like when you do open to work, like
Just
LinkedIn
don't
gives you
change your profile, but you can put the
exactly,
setting on. But you can put the setting on the back end, like open to
exactly.
opportunities. Okay.
Exactly. So LinkedIn basically advertises your profile as open to work so that what does this do? So remember that there's LinkedIn, normal LinkedIn, and then there's the paid option for recruiters, right? I guess candidates can pay for that as well, and I've used LinkedIn Premium or LinkedIn Plus. I don't remember the name. If you're trying to find jobs, it's not worth it. If you're a recruiter, though, it is worth to pay for the LinkedIn Premium, or I don't remember the name, but LinkedIn Premium. Let's call it LinkedIn Premium. So the open to work option, what it does is that it's basically sends a signal to all the recruiters, right? Like they put some kind of description, skills, right, of the profiles that they're looking for. And when you're open to work in LinkedIn, again, the discrete option, not the one that says to everybody that you're unemployed or that you're looking for work, uh, they get a signal, right? And so this increases your chances of getting noticed by a recruiter, getting a recruiter in your DMs, but it also has the effect of LinkedIn sending you jobs. So like every day you get emails from LinkedIn that says like, hey, open position on this, open position on this, there's a skills match, there's a skills match. And so you can apply yourself, right? Like you can go, again, you receive this in your inbox, right? Like you go and you apply for the jobs that you want, and it's a social media. So it's a social media website. So it's like once you go in for one job, LinkedIn actually gives you a list of other similar jobs that are also hiring for positions, or other similar employers that are hiring for positions similar as yours. So this is where you can easily get 5 applications per day, even more, without necessarily doing the. I mean, it's kind of like a organic spray and pray in a sense, right? Like because you're going there manually. And so the other advantage, like I was saying, when you are going to the application page of for the position, LinkedIn actually shows you the person that's in charge of that position. So something that I do a lot of times is that I don't apply necessarily, but I send a connection request to the recruiter and then talk to the
Uh-huh.
recruiter directly.
Hmm.
And they will either like be glad, like I will send them my resume or something, or they'll tell you like, hey, apply via this link. But you can actually like get that access to them, and so the thing is that um, a lot of the times, and another thing that you need to take into considerations is that a lot of times LinkedIn will say that there's like 1,000 applicants for a position, or like I don't know, 10 applicants, whatever. That number is always inflated. Like that number is usually never
100
true.
plus.
Yeah, that number is usually never true. The I don't know exactly the rationale for why. I think it's to protect the company's reputation. So like it doesn't seem like, man, this is lame. Nobody has applied to this. Kind of like
Right. I
the
figure it's like half Indians anyway, and so like it's really not that bad.
yeah. It's like you don't know. Like you think it's like 100 people that are just like as qualified and talented as you, and that's not the case at all. And but here's the thing, right? Like if it's half the number, right? Let's say it's 100 applicants, 50 applicants for one position. The recruiters get overwhelmed, right? Like going through 50 resumes, going through 50 profiles can be quite a lot. So sometimes if you just make their job easier, like you just message them directly, right? Like, hey,
Hmm.
like here's my resume. I saw this position open. That kind of like brings you up in the rankings.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I've been
DM the
told.
recruiter, maybe attach your resume, say, "Hey, I applied." Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. What else are we doing in terms of like the way that you use LinkedIn?
So I mean, I think pretty much covered it. You can go the premium route that gives you even more like networking access stuff. I don't think it's worth it as an employee looking for work, but LinkedIn is really. I mean, I don't use LinkedIn. Like you're asking me, how do I use LinkedIn? I don't post anything in there. I don't interact with any of the information there. I don't like
Uh-huh.
anything.
So,
I,
so let me ask you a few questions then. You
sure.
search for keywords, so maybe you
Yes,
use a specific QA software like Selenium or something like that,
that's right.
and so you're searching that in the
Yes.
toolbar. And are you maybe mixing that with an industry? Because maybe I don't know. Let's just say the aerospace industry.
That's
So
right.
are you typing like Selenium aerospace so that you're
That's
getting QAs that are industry specific, and maybe that's like
that's right.
hyper focused and that's good?
That's right. That's right. You can use LinkedIn like that. So I don't. I will work for whatever field, any industry, because for me, a job is just money. So it's like I don't care, like whatever fintech, I don't
Right.
care.
But it helps the
But yes,
story. It helps
that's
the
right.
story.
That's right. That's right. And so because LinkedIn is a social media site in the end, like it's still a social media site, they make notes out of everything. So you can even do something like, if you add a skill to your profile, you can actually like click on that skill and it will give you options of like search for jobs that are hiring for this skill, right? And so you can actually refine the searches uh, pre minute, like to pre minutia, like you, I want this particular job, like this particular salary range. And again, because it's a social media site, it kind of like it links it all together, right? Like and you might even be looking for something in particular, right? Like jobs in whatever, in fintechs, in area space industry,
Uh-huh.
uh, and you will find a bunch of jobs now that are in that industry, but then also similar jobs or the same job in another
Yeah,
field,
it starts
right?
curating it a little bit for
Exactly.
you. Okay, so I
Exactly.
have another question, which is, so what happens next is after you submit a lot of resumes, is
Hmm.
you put typically, I assume, your phone number on your
Hmm.
resume or
That's
maybe
right.
a Calendly link, but typically the phone number,
That's right.
and you start getting a lot of random calls out of nowhere, and half of them are like scam numbers
Yeah.
somehow. Maybe that's due to the spray and pray approach, but um, I
Yeah.
notice after I apply on LinkedIn, I start getting a lot of random calls that aren't even from the recruiters.
Right.
I don't know what's up with that, but you have to be ready to basically field these, a lot of like first round calls, and make sure that you're setting next steps and this kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you like, you can download an app called Truecaller. That it will give you. The problem is that it's Truecaller is like, it's not like they have like a database that's curated by some kind of official entity, right? It's again socially mediated, right? So it's like if somebody's getting a lot of spam calls from a particular number. They log this, right? Like, but it could be that they changed, this was the case, and then the number got reassigned to like a legitimate account, and they still carry like that bad reputation on the number, because you also, there's a lot of opacity. Anyway, that Truecaller, it mostly works to sift out spam calls, right? um, if you're getting that situation, that's the problem. That's one of the problems with spray and pray. You don't know who's getting your info. So the other thing about what you're saying is completely right. You get so interview processes take several steps, right? So the first call you're going to get, it's just a screening call to verify that you applied, or that you are who you say you are, and that you're interested in a position, to see if there's a match, right? Like, and this will usually be a very short call, and it will usually be an HR rep from the
Hmm.
recruitment team, that she's most likely a woman, but sometimes men. But she will most likely have like a list of skills of whatever they required, and you just go and you tell them like, yes, no, yes, I have whatever, however many years, and then they set up like the real interview, right? And then this is, I mean, this can change, right? Like there are companies that have 3 rounds of interviews. There's others that just with 1 or 2 interviews they're good. But usually you get one technical interview, or one, let's say, subject matter interview, and one cultural fit interview to see,
Hmm.
if you're a cultural fit. And then usually they will either extend you an offer, or something will come up, like they will tell you like they can't extend you an offer right now. But that's usually the case. And I used to, so for tech, I used to decline all interviews that required coding. Like, I mean, live coding is not really done anymore, but like a code challenge or like a project, I used to just turn them down.
Yeah.
But now I just fight bullshit with bullshit, and I just use Chat GPT to to do all those code
Mm.
challenges.
So you do the code challenges now.
I do the code challenges now, but because I use Chat GPT, I pay for Chat GPT 4.
Premium. Yeah. So
4.0,
it's
and
not too
yeah,
bad.
and it's so great. Like, you can even take pictures, because some of these code challenge platforms, they think they're clever, and they don't let you copy paste the
The
problem.
question.
uh,
Uh huh.
yeah, but I mean, you can, if you know what you're doing, you can like inspect the DOM, the HTML element, and like get the text from the HTML. But ChatGPT will actually, like, you can send it ChatGPT 4. You can actually send it a picture of the problem, of the premise of the problem, and it will solve
Just
it for you.
screenshot it.
Yeah, you just screenshot it and you send it to them. Send it to ChatGPT. Yeah, it's great.
Genius. Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's a game changer for the because I was like you, like I would do a couple of them if I really liked the company or it wasn't that bad. But some of them were like nuts, like
Insufferable.
5 hour projects and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you gotta pay me almost
You
to
gotta
do
pay me,
this.
yeah. Or it's like, this is what I would tell them, like, this is for unemployed people, right? Like, this is for somebody that's desperate for a job. They have all the time in
Yeah,
the world in their hands, and they have no problem doing 5 hour code challenges or projects. But it's like,
yeah,
I have a
yeah, yeah.
job, I have a family, I can't do a 5 hour project for free on the side. But now I don't tell them anything. I just go like, yeah, here's your Chat GPT answer, sir.
Uh-huh.
Here's your
And
coding skills, sir. your
that's
Trat
genius.
coder.
So tell me this: are you tracking the jobs, the job processes at all? Like, because I feel like when I'm like knee deep in like a recruiting process and I'm talking to like 15 companies, some of them just sort of slip through and I forget to follow up to maybe schedule the next round or this and that. Do you do anything with that?
I haven't had any issues like that because they're usually the ones that are scheduling things for you. You don't have to follow up in that sense. So what's happening with you that you are the one that has to follow up with them to schedule things?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, well, just like anything, not everyone's good at their jobs and maybe they forget or or I mean, or just like, it's their way of, you could be more tenacious and be like, "Hey, I really want to get to the next round," type of thing. Um,
What I find is that if they ghost you or they don't reach back, something happened to the position. So you talking to them doesn't really affect things, and that's because they either the position was filled and they didn't bother to tell you, or it was put on hold and they didn't bother to tell you, or you didn't get it and they didn't bother to tell you.
mhm.
So usually when they start responding, I just assume it's one of those because every time I have followed, like I have asked for, hey, what's up? They usually shoot one of those. Like I've never gotten like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I forgot about you. Let's schedule, and that's usually a bad sign. Like if they forgot to schedule something with you, you're not getting that job, man. Like forget
Okay.
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Regarding ChatGPT, do you think now that, people don't even maybe need the skills and you can almost just like
Oh
fake
no,
your way into a job because you can just
no.
ChatGPT like all the
You
all the tasks and stuff?
Um, no, I definitely. So I thought that, and I got a friend that is very smart, but he was not into tech at all. He was actually a lawyer, or he is a lawyer. And but he was like a game, like he is a gamer. I keep talking about him as if he was like, past tense, like he died. Like no, he's still alive. He's a gamer, and so he wanted to get into tech, but it's very hard, like just to just like get a junior position, whatever. So I gave him one of my jobs, thinking like, hey, he's very smart, computer savvy. I'll just give him access to my Chat GPT 4 account, and he should do fine. And no, he really wasn't. Like he couldn't. Like I had to take him up the project. He almost cost me a job. I basically told him like I found him a couple of courses online and told him like, listen, like at least you really need the theory for this. Like, at least get the basics down before we try this again. Because here's the thing: ChatGPT is very good if you already know what you're doing. If you know what ChatGPT is telling you about, like ChatGPT can give you boilerplate code. It can help you, like you can use it like Stack Overflow if you have a question like how do I do X, right? But you need to have the basics down, at least for instance for coding. Like you have to really know object oriented programming, like theoretically, like the theory of what it is, how it works, so that you can, like when ChatGPT gives you stuff, you are not just like randomly posting or like randomly trying to implement what it's saying, because it's really quite limited in a sense. Like it's very good for some things, But
Right.
if you
It's gonna
don't,
get better though with like
yeah,
Google, with like GitHub Copilot as
yes,
well.
but you still can't. I strongly believe that you can go in like
Not knowing.
empty.
Okay.
Yeah, like just empty. Like you don't even know, because like for instance, my friend had. I mean, I don't want to get too technical on this, but like my friend had issues where he didn't understand the difference between works like namespaces. Like if you use .NET or C Sharp or whatever, like like libraries.
Like
You have different
global
like
variable or something.
yeah, no, like libraries. Like you have different like you can have the same function name in two different libraries, but they do completely different things, right? So like he wouldn't understand these things. Like ChatGPT would give him an answer, and he would be focused on the name of the function, and he wouldn't understand like, hey, like you actually need an extra
Right.
library that you're not getting. And so I think
Makes sense.
ChatGPT is very very good. Like it really. Increments your productivity and lets you it frees up a lot of your time if you already know what you're getting from ChatGPT. If you don't, ChatGPT can a lot of times just give you fake answers, like just wrong answers, like just things that it made up. Like I have
Yeah, you
had to
gotta
correct
cross check.
ChatGPT and tell it like, hey dude, like you're making this up. Like this thing doesn't exist. Like what you're telling me to do does not actually exist. Like the compiler is telling me is not real. And it would be like, oh, I'm so sorry. So if you don't know, it's like you have no idea.
Hmm. So maybe some people are listening to this and they're saying like, well, this is all well and good when you do QA or coding or something like that, but what about the non-technical
Mm,
jobs? You know, remote sales has become pretty big in the past couple of years.
yeah.
You know, and of course, there's other jobs out there as well. What I'm sure you get this question like every day in your DMs and stuff. What are kind of your big recommendations for non-technical remote jobs?
In what sense? Regarding Chat GPT or in general?
Oh no, sorry, I'm changing the subject. So just like people are like, dude, I love Latin America. I want to live here forever. I have no skills. I used to be a plumber. Um, I'll do anything to make 4K a month. Like, so what are we trying to do for them to get them a remote job?
So they don't have any skills that are remote, right? Like they're a plumber and they're trying to get a remote job, right?
Uh huh.
I would try to. My advice usually is identify something that you are either interested in, right? Like my friend, he wanted to get into coding, or that you're either interested in, or that you feel like it seems like you could do. And then what I tell them is that they should craft a resume for somebody that's not too experienced in that type of job, and then apply. Maybe spray and pray can work here, right? Like there's a numbers game, you're trying to get an interview, and learn by going to the interview process. Don't be embarrassed that you're gonna get asked questions that you don't know the answer to. The idea is that the initial interviews that you're getting are your learning opportunities, because um, when you are, I mean, the interview process is how you get the job, right? And so the actual skills of working the job you can learn while working, or like you
Yeah.
have more time, right? Like, but you have to pass this test of actually getting to the job. So just craft a resume you're not going to pass. Obviously, if you have no experience in the field, you're not going to be able to pass as an expert. But craft a resume, somebody with junior level experience, get those interviews, take notes, research what they ask in the interview, and refine that process until you hit it out of the park. In one interview, you get hired, and congratulations, you're now in the industry that you want, in the field that you wanted to get into. Because once you get a job, in whatever field, you can get other jobs. It's kind of like getting your first girlfriend, right? Like no girl's gonna give you the time of day until you get your first girlfriend, and then all of a sudden their interest they see potential in you. So it's the same. Like once you get your first
Yep.
uh, job, like you're gonna be able to get subsequent ones. So that's mostly my take. In that case, I think spray and pray makes more sense.
Hmm. Well, I must say, in the past, when I was doing some job stacking stuff, your advice to me was like super, super helpful. The stuff offline. So,
Oh
we
yeah,
were talking on Telegram. We did a couple calls. I had questions. I was trying to do the job stacking. I had all these like mini conflicts or like
situations.
unknowns,
Yeah.
situations that I was dealing with, and all your advice was like super helpful, helped me navigate like a whole ton of stuff. So I'm super super grateful to that, and for that reason, I think you're going to be like an excellent coach when it comes to helping people do job stacking, because you really just have a really great way of explaining things and ability to read the room and all that. So I think this is going to be a huge year for Rolf Haltza in job stacking.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate your kind words. I'm very happy to help people. Sometimes the questions that I get asked, this show or publicly on Twitter, can be very general, and so it's like it's hard for me to give like pinpoint answers of like this is exactly what you should do. But whenever I get presented with very specific scenarios, then yeah, I can work with people, get through those obstacles, right? Get through those situations. And so that's actually what I'm planning on offering this year. I'm actually revamping my coaching efforts on the jobstacking.com website. I'm now going to be offering done with you job stacking programs, or I mean, solutions in a sense, where I'm going to work one on one with people so that they get their multiple remote jobs and they know how to handle, navigate those situations. So yeah, look for the new Done With You program on the jobstacking.com website. Uh, I'm gonna be working one on one with you. I mean, not with you, my Latin life. I have worked with you, my Latin life,
With the
but
audience.
with you, the audience.
And I recommend it. I recommend it. If you're job stacking, why go it alone when you can work with an expert in job stacking that's been through all these situations a million times before and can help you really navigate it?
That's right. I can be with like your friend, right? Like, what did my boss mean by this? I can tell you. I can tell you what your boss meant by that.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, you're really good at it. I think that's where actually you shine is with the specific situations.
That's right. I agree. I like it. I enjoy it. I just have fun helping people navigate basically the bullshit of the politics on work and how to cover their asses. I love it. Was born to do this.
So tell the audience one more time where they can find you.
Jobstacking.com is the website, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Rolf Haltza. I'm also on YouTube, like every social media site. Like I have YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. On TikTok, I mean whatever. I have YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and all of those are job stacking. The only one that it's my name, Rolf Haltza, is Twitter. But jobstacking.com, main website. It's the main hub.
Love it. All the links will be in the show notes. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, my guest today, Rolf Haltza, Job Stacking. Thanks to Rolf for joining us, and thanks to the audience for listening.
Thank you. See you in the next one.